kids. It is week 28, day 1. Well, this is your Monday language arts video, so we're going to be talking about some figurative language. They include these terms: simile, metaphor, hyperbole, personification, and idiom. Okay, I want to start by reading a picture book to you. This is a beautiful, children's bedtime book. It's called Where Does Thursday Go? By Janine Bryan, and Stephen Michael King. And it includes both similes and some personification. So let's take a look at this. Where does Thursday go? It was Thursday, Bruno's birthday. What fun they all had. That night, Bruno thought about his special day and wished that it didn't have to end. He knew his birthday would be gone in the morning. So, what happened? So wondered Bruno, what happened to it during the night? Where did it go? Where does Thursday go before Friday comes? He asked his friend Bert. Bert looked thoughtful. It has to go somewhere, said Bruno. I'd like to say goodbye to it before it goes. Come on. And they crept downstairs and slipped out into the star-speckled streets. First they came to a bridge. A gentle river gurgled beneath. Oogle gurgle, oogle gurgle, it said. Is that you, Thursday? Bruno called out. We've come to say goodbye. But there was no reply. Okay, so personification is giving human characteristics to inanimate or animal characters. To objects or animals. Okay, so we're turning these inanimate things into people, into a person. Personification. You can think about the word person in it to help you remember. Hey, turning a river into a person that's talking to them. Oogle gurgle, it said. Okay. This whole book also includes personification, doesn't it? And that the animals can speak, okay, which is a typical kind of personification that we have in cartoons, picture books for children, where the animals talk the same way that humans do. Let's see if we can identify some more character traits or some more evidences of personification, this giving human characteristics to objects or animals, as we continue on in our story. Bruno and Bert found a park. Toot, too-hoo, called an owl from a tall tree. As it flapped past, its wings whispered in the cool night air. Is that you, Thursday? Called Bruno, but there was no reply. Okay, so they've taken this owl, and of course he's speaking, but he talks just like an animal would talk. Toot, too-hoo. But they have taken a part of the owl and given it human character traits. The wings of the owl whispered. Can wings whisper like a person can? No, so they took even just a part of the animal and personified it. Bruno and Bert sat down by the edge of the lake. A streak of shining silver swam past with a flick of its tail. Is that you, Thursday? Called Bruno. But there was no reply. The friends climbed a hill. Suddenly a deep growl whooshed out of the tunnel. Whoo, whoo, cried the engine. I guess it's more of a whoo, whoo, whoo. No, it's a train whistle. Whoo, 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 cried the engine as its wheels hummed as it raced past. I'm making that sound like an owl. Is that you, Thursday? Called Bruno, but there was no reply. So here they've given a completely inanimate object, a train, a machine, human characteristics, right? It growled as it whooshed out of the tunnel, okay? Growling, yeah, that's a personification. And its wheels humming, okay? Bruno and Bert walked to the edge of the sea. White-tipped waves splashed the shore. Swish, swish, the waves sighed as they drew back into the ocean. There you go. We've got the waves sighing like a person would. Is that you, Thursday? Called Bruno. But again, there was no reply. Sadly, Bruno and Bert turned toward home. They sat down on the front steps. Do you know what I think Thursday looks like? Said Bruno. Bert looked interested. I think it's big and round like my birthday cake, said Bruno. And it's bright like my candles. And it makes me happy like these balloons, said Bruno. I think Thursday is all of these things. Okay, so here we've got the introduction of another kind of figurative language, and that is simile. Okay, so this is when you use the word like and as to compare two things. Thursday is like my birthday cake. Thursday is like these balloons. Thursday is like, it's bright, like my candles. Okay, using like and as to compare two things that are different. Bert looked very thoughtful. He glanced up at the sky. There was the moon, big and round and bright, hanging like a silver balloon, just like Thursday. They found it. Just then, the moon began to drift slowly behind a cloud. Bruno waved, "Goodbye, Thursday," he called. "Goodbye." Then Bruno and Bert crept back inside. They climbed into bed, closed their eyes, and slept soundly until the sun brought Friday. So in that simple picture book, we saw two beautiful ways to use figurative language to make the story come to life. It's personification and simile. What then is a metaphor? Let me share with you a poem that uses metaphor. What if you had never heard of the color magenta? Okay, magenta. Does anybody, guys out there, do you know what color magenta is? All right, here's a poem that describes magenta. Magenta is the taste of cherries on a cool evening, raspberries in a purple bowl, a sunset over the summer tide, the fragrance of a rose at dawn. Magenta is the grating of water on a rock, the winding motion of a waterfall, luscious strawberries that melt in the mouth, an aroma of cake and tea leaves at 6. So, metaphor also compares two things. Magenta is cherries in a bowl, raspberries, on a cool evening, strawberries that melt in your mouth. Okay, so it also compares, but it just makes the comparison directly. Okay, so it leaves out like or as. Magenta is like strawberries. Nope, magenta is strawberries. Okay, we just go straight to the comparison, just suggesting it or implying it more closely. Okay, so that's the difference between simile and metaphor. Okay, can you picture magenta now a little bit better? I don't think I really even have a magenta, but let's see if we can do that. Kind of a reddish purple, isn't it? Okay, the deep color of berries. The other comparisons that the poem made is water on a rock or the motion of a waterfall. So trying to incorporate all the senses as they compare magenta to these other things. Imagine trying to explain colors to someone who is blind and trying to use your other senses to do that. It would be challenging, okay? Let's talk a little bit about idioms and then we'll get to hyperbole. I have some pictures I want to share with you of some idioms. These are expressions that we use in our language that are don't make a lot of sense when you think about them logically. And so they're hard for foreign speakers to understand as they start learning English, okay? Here's some examples. Oh, I'm as cool as a cucumber. Very calm and composed and untroubled by stress. That's very good. And it uses a simile, right? To do this idiom as well. Oh, sorry, I thought they were all there. Let's go to the next one. This is a good one. Can you guess what the idiom is? Hold your horses, or wait a moment. Really, if you had to hold your horses, have you ever heard that idiom? That would just be crazy. You really wouldn't be able to hold up a lot of horses. Kick the bucket, which means to die. So can you imagine someone who didn't understand English and said, yeah, if you said, yeah, my grandpa just kicked the bucket. He would just be like, what? What does that have to do with anything? What does that matter? Okay. And maybe wouldn't be as sad as you're feeling. Blue in the face, weakened or tired after trying many times. Okay, so she argued until she was blue in the face. Well, we can't really turn blue in our faces. It just means she spends so much energy and effort trying to convince someone. A storm in a teacup, a big fuss made about something of little importance. Okay. I haven't used that idiom very much. Do you use it? It's not very common in my language or with the people I talk to. Storm in a teacup. But it makes sense. Bob's your uncle. That's an expression that means just as simple as that. Bob's your uncle. I don't use that expression either. It would confuse me if I did. But it's funny. I like her illustration for it too. Head in the clouds. This one I'm very familiar with. Maybe you've heard as well. Okay, so you're just living in a fantasy world. Her head is in the clouds, daydreaming all the time. Okay, of course that's not really what's happening. Dead as a doornail. Completely dead or unusable. And of course a doornail can't really die. It's an inanimate object, so this is kind of a personification, I guess, too. Is that the last one? No, I've got two more. A piece of cake. Yeah, that's something very easy to do. We use this all the time. Oh, it's going to be a piece of cake. People who don't understand our idioms are like, where's the cake? I want some cake. Okay. Meaning it'll just be easy. And our final English idiom that Board Panda has created is your heart was in your mouth. Extremely frightened or anxious. That's kind of gross to think about. Your heart is in your mouth. And those are idioms. Okay, so let's add idiom to our list. Okay, an expression that has a different meaning than its literal. than its literal meaning. Okay, our last one to talk about then is hyperbole. And this is where you use exaggeration for effect. Okay, I got the wrong green. Exaggeration. For example, I am so hungry, I could eat a horse. Okay. Is that really true? Like, no, you wouldn't eat a horse, really. That's an exaggeration. I am so starving, I could die. Well, that's exaggerated. You're not so hungry you're gonna die. None of us have probably ever been hungry enough to die. Hyperbole, right? An exaggeration. I am so tired. I could just pass out right now and sleep for like weeks. I could sleep for weeks. Okay, hyperbole is exaggeration. These kinds of expressions in our language, in our writing, in the books we read, in the movies we see, really make them come alive, make them so much more rich and meaningful and so much more fun. So, similes, metaphors, hyperboles, personification, and idioms. I want you to practice with those this week. There's several different activities you can do, looking for this figurative language in books that you're reading. Activity 3 for this week has, if you want to choose choice 3, has 20 sentences, and you get to choose if it's a simile or if it's a metaphor or if it's personification, okay, or what. Action item choice number 1 has, I think you just fill in some blanks of some metaphors and idioms, similes. And the same with action item choice, easy action item choice number 4. If you go to that Google form, I just have you fill in a simile, a metaphor, add some hyperbole, add some personification. I don't think I ask you for an idiom, but I do want you to fill in the blanks for each of those if you choose action item 4 for today. And just be aware of these kinds of things. Listen to them as you read and as you hear people talk. See if you can pick up any funny idioms that your family consistently says, or examples of hyperbole in their speech as well. You'll just amaze and wow your family. You say, Mom, that was just hyperbole. Maybe she won't appreciate it. I am so mad right now, I could just like explode. Mom, that's hyperbole. Probably not the best thing to do if she's mad at you at the moment for not cleaning your room or something. Mom, she says, honey, your room is completely, it's like a tornado hit it. And you're like, Mom, that's hyperbole. So be careful when you tell your mom that. But it is fun to start being aware of these kinds of things. So we'll catch you next, students, in our history video. See you then.